Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, no problem. So I have to share my screen again. Okay. So okay, so now we're back on track. So the Prisma statement and the mass criteria is when you're actually crafting your own systematic review, yeah, and your own meta-analysis. So the Prisma statement, you should not do any review or any meta-analysis without applying the Prisma points, yeah, without the Prisma aspects. And the mass criteria does offer you a good explanation of all the different steps of a systematic review. Yeah, so this is when you really practical applying, when you're practically working on your systematic review. Follow these criteria. If you want to know many different things about systematic reviews, then read this article guidance on conducting a systematic literature review. Okay, so first of all, what is a systematic review? What is a meta-analysis? I'm promised to explain it to you. So a systematic review summarizes the results of as many studies as possible. Yeah, but I don't agree with this formulation, as many studies as possible. It's not really correct. It would be more precise to say those fitting the inclusion and exclusion criteria on a specific topic. Yeah. Subject area. So a systematic review summarize these articles who fit the inclusion and exclusion criteria on a specific topic. Yeah. A meta-analysis is the following thing. Under certain circumstances, results from individual studies can be combined into an overall outcome. Yeah. So it is a statistical analysis of original research data. And of course, you have to perform a systematic review first. Yeah. Then you include a certain amount of studies. And if you have this, if you have the original research studies together, you can perform a meta-analysis, which is an additional statistical analysis of the original research data. We have many different ways of meta-analysis. Yeah, we'll talk about this next week. But basically, it is additional statistical analysis. And of course, yeah, the systematic reviews have the highest evidence. Yes, it's the highest level of evidence. Here, one step in the pyramid is missing. Yeah, so newer pictures do have the umbrella review here. Yeah, umbrella review is a review of reviews. Yeah, an umbrella review does summarize all systematic reviews. Yeah, okay, but we will not talk about this in today and not next week. So this pictures here, yeah, I found very funny. So I love the sea, I love the ocean. Yeah, I like to go surfing. I like to go swimming in the open water. And I think our planet is better with the sea than without the sea. Yeah, I think without sea, the mankind would not survive anymore. So in the sea, yeah, there's floating around some. I really don't know the English term for it. Yeah, in German you say Krill. Yeah, it's very little small animals and small fishes and small, yeah, some really tiny Krebse. Yeah, I don't know the English expression of Krebse. I'm really sorry, but I think you know what I'm talking about. This is the stuff which is floating around in the sea. Yeah, and bigger fishes. And this represents the data of each participant. Yeah, so let's imagine these here are original research studies, and these are the data of one individual participants. And then some bigger fishes are coming and eating the the data here, yeah. So this fish represents one original research study each, and here these three things go into that fish, yeah. These are participant data which go here. These are participant data which goes here. These data go here, and these data goes here. And then, yeah, these fishes swim around in the ocean, and a bigger fish, yeah, a predatory fish is coming, yeah. So, and eating those fish, and this is the meta-analytical data synthesis, which includes all the data of each participant. Yeah, so here we have another picture. These are the individual data of each participant. Here the original research studies. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here the meta-analysis. So I guess this is quite a good picture of what a systematic review and a meta-analysis is. Yeah, so the definition of meta-analysis is the statistical analysis of a large collection of analysis results from individual studies for purposes of integrating the findings. So basically, a meta-analysis is a synthesis of knowledge. Okay, what for do we need meta-analysis? Yeah, so different studies yield different results. Sometimes we have very, very strong divergences, yeah, or differences, yeah. Causes for this diversity of results. So substantive differences, yeah, content related. We can find differences that have statistical reasons, that have methodological reasons, that are measurement theoretical, yeah, and please do not forget, we're working with humans, yeah, and humans are individuals, yeah. So maybe it's intercultural differences, yeah. Maybe it's educational differences, yeah. If you do a study with young elite soccer players in England, yeah, or in United Kingdom, they maybe have another education than youth elite soccer players here in Germany. Yeah, if you do a psychological assessment, yeah, it can be different if you do it in Australia than if you do it in Germany. Yeah, so we have many influencing or confounding factors in our work with humans, yeah, which can influence the results. Yeah, and of course, methodological differences, yeah. If we do something about VO2 max or maximum strength, yeah, we have many different ways to assess the VO2 max, yeah, or to assess the maximum strength, yeah. We have different protocols, we have different measuring devices, yeah. We can we can do a 1 repetition maximum test. We can do a 5 repetition maximum test. Yeah, and we have day-to-day variability. Yeah, so studies can be really different. Yeah, from numerous reasons. So it's important to summarize them and to provide the big picture. I brought you 2 examples. Yeah, it's a very interesting review, by the way. The research question was, do colored football, so soccer player, yeah, receive red cards more often than white football players? And we have about, I don't know, 22 studies, yeah, summarized here in this review. And if we can see with one view, we can see immediately that the results are really different. Yeah, if I'm reading these 2 articles, yeah, I will say, yeah, of course, yeah, everywhere colored player have an increased likeliness of receiving a red card. Yeah, so referees will be more, will be more strict with colored football players than with football players who have a white skin. Yeah. If I read these 2 or 3 articles, yeah, I will say the exact opposite. Yeah, I will say no, it's black football player. They have the the same or in decreased likeliness to get a red card. Yeah. If I read just these two papers, I will say, yeah, they have a slightly higher possibility to get a red card. Yeah. And if I want to read all the articles, yeah, like 2022, it's a really busy task. Yeah. So I will have a lot to do. If I want to have the big picture, I have to research all the relevant articles in this subject. Yeah, I have to search them. I have to find them. I have to read them, and I have to make a synthesis in my head. Yeah, so it's often a task which will take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and let's be honest, it's in our daily life. Yeah, it's not always possible to succeed with this task. Yeah, because you have to lock yourself into a room. Yeah, and really concentrate, focus on this question. Yeah, and read everything you can find, write down the results, and then you have the big picture. Yeah, so it will be and I'm really not kidding, it's an enormous task. Yeah, to read this 25 research papers and synthesize all the results in your head. Yeah, remember all the results, and then make a general conclusion about this question. Yeah, so it's a huge help for us to read systematic reviews with a meta-analysis. The same is true for this subject. Yeah, I showed you this review before. Yeah, it's the global changes in physical activity during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, and here again we have, like, I don't know, 25 original research studies. Yeah, and here we see the percentual changes. Yeah, the 90% confidence interval. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about what this means later. Yeah, and here you can see a really nice forest plot. Yeah, you see it on the first side. Yeah, you just have to spend a couple of seconds to get the big picture. Yeah, and if I would read just these two articles, I would say, yeah, of course, yeah, during the pandemic, the physical activity level in children increased dramatically. So they got a lot of more physical activity. Yeah, but if I read these 2 or 3 articles, I would say, yeah, physical activity decreased dramatically during the pandemic. So it's really, really important to have this summary, to have this systematic review with meta-analysis to give you the big picture and to provide all the existing knowledge to one research question. Yeah, and again, if we are 27 people in this seminar now, yeah, or 20, 27, 28, 29, let's say 30. If each of us would search, read, and synthesize all the knowledge, it would be a crazy amount of hours going into this. Yeah, if a small team of researchers performs this review, it's a lot of hours. Yeah, it's a big effort, but as soon as you do it, as soon as you publish it, it is available worldwide, and it saves the research community a lot of hours and a lot of effort. Yeah, and therefore we do these meta-analysis. Yeah. Okay, I summarized this here. Yeah, while reviews with meta-analysis, reading 1, 2, or 3 original research studies represents just 1, 2, or 3 pieces of the puzzle. Yeah, a systematic review with meta-analysis is providing or are providing the big picture. So I have the really big overview. But always remember, of course, we have every piece of research has strengths and weaknesses. A systematic review with meta-analysis possesses always just the quality of their original research studies. Yeah, if the original research studies are garbage, yeah, so I will find garbage in my systematic review. Yeah, it's a phenomenon, garbage in, garbage out. A systematic review with meta-analysis is just as good as the studies which are included. Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. So always be cautious, always be careful. It's not always gold. Yeah. Okay, alternatives, yeah. As an alternative to integrating study findings, narrative reviews are prevalent. However, what precisely is the difference to systematic reviews? It's really very easy. A narrative review, yeah, we will have diverse or multiple biases, yeah, due to subjectivity, selection of reviewed studies, yeah, implicit weighting, and the primacy and recency effects. Yeah, I guess you all know what the primacy and recency, or what a primacy and recency effect is. I have inadequate consideration of sampling errors, yeah, and I have quantitative statements mostly limited to descriptive facts or vote counting. Yeah, and I'll explain to you later what vote counting is. So basically, a narrative review is a review which is not structured. Yeah, which is just which does not follow any concrete protocol, yeah, which is just I will sit on my computer, yeah, and I will write about one subject, yeah, and I will write about studies which just come into my mind, yeah, which I just stumbled over, yeah, let's put it like this, yeah, which I just found, yeah, more or less by chance, and I will write a little bit about them. I don't have a systematic approach. Yeah, I don't have an additional statistical analysis. So in some scenarios, it can make sense. Yeah, and these scenarios are if I have really a very, very small number of studies published yet. Yeah, so if we're really at the start line, yeah, if I just have a really very small number, yeah, I can just write a brief narrative summary about this, yeah. Okay, here I have it more precise. So a narrative review, yeah, the research question is more or less a broad research question. I don't have an exact and precise definition. My search methods is not specified, yeah, I always say, I just write about studies which I stumbled over, ja, also auf Deutsch, ich schreibe einfach nur über die Studien, über die ich gerade irgendwie gestolpert sind, die ich gerade irgendwie kenne, ja. So sorry, this was my German statement for today. The selection of studies is not specified, yeah, it's really yeah, I don't have precise criteria to the study selection and combining of results. Yeah, so an additional statistical procedures, I really don't have none. I did perform narrative reviews, yeah, in my early career stages, yeah, and sometimes it can make sense when we really have a limited amount of studies. Yeah, but meanwhile, I would say we should not do it. Yeah, we should not publish narrative reviews. A systematic review, yeah, you have an explicit research question. Yeah, the question is really narrowed down. You have a precise definition of the research question, and you have a precise definition of all the constructs you analyze. Yeah, for example, if you want to do a systematic review about high intensity interval training, you have an exact definition of what high intensity interval training is. Yeah, so let's make an example. Yeah, you just include studies which show a training intensity of, let's say, 95% of the maximum heart rate or supra maximal intensities. Yeah, so it's not that you really define high intensity interval training in a very precise way. Yeah, so you just will include studies which train with 95% of maximum heart rate or even higher. So the search method, yeah, is really explicit, really comprehensive and transparent. Yeah, you say you search in this database, in that database with these specific words. And the selection of study is explicit. Yeah, the eligibility criteria. Sorry, I'm really struggling with this word. Yeah, so the eligibility. Yeah, okay, you just can read it for yourself. I apologize. So you have inclusion and exclusion criteria. Yeah, much easier to pronounce. And of course, when you perform a meta-analysis, and then you have an integration and additional statistical procedures. Yeah, so systematic reviews are always better. Yeah, let's put it like this. In the situation where you have just 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6, or 7 different studies to that subject, you may write a narrative review, but it will never be considered as paper of the year. Yeah, let's put it like that. Okay, narrative versus systematic review. Some really very simple truth. Yeah, with an systematic review, you can increase. You have an increase in power. You have a big sample size. Yeah, you increase validity. Yeah. Systematic reviews are often the basis for decision making. Okay, yeah. So if, for example, if you work in a federation, yeah, and you discuss about implementing a talent identification system, or you discuss about implementing a specific recovery intervention, yeah, you always do not discuss with the help of one study. Yeah, you take a systematic review and say, here, this is the evidence. Yeah, we know in this circumstances it is effective. Yeah, it makes sense. So let's implement this thing, whatever it is, into practice. Yeah, and you will refer to a systematic review and mostly not to 1 or 2 or 3 different studies. Meta-analysis is only as good as the number and quality of the primary studies. Please be always aware of this. Yeah. The strength of the meta-analysis increases with the number of good primary studies. Yeah. Okay. So some really simple truths. Okay. Let's have a closer look on the differences between narrative review and systematic review. In narrative reviews, you often do a vote counting. Yeah, and vote counting is not. I would not recommend to do the vote counting. Yeah, vote counting. What is it? It is a comparison of significant versus non-significant results. Yeah, for example, in a review, in a narrative review, you say, yeah, we have 10 studies to this subject. Yeah, and 6 do show significant results, and 4 do not show any significant results. So the majority of studies showed significant results. So we can assume that this intervention is effective for this or that group of participants. Yeah, this is simple as vote counting, but it's very, very dangerous to do so. Yeah, and I'll explain to you why it is dangerous. So a missing effect in a study can be caused by missing power, yeah, and not by an ineffective intervention. Yeah, so it significant or not significant is very, very dependent from the number of participants. Yeah. So I brought you here 5 different randomized controlled trials. Yeah, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Yeah. And if we have a look at the p-value, yeah, so each randomized controlled trial was working with 80 participants. Yeah, so n is a number of participants. So in each study you have 80 participants. So study 1 does not show any significant results. Yeah, P is very large. Yeah, so okay, I have to say I made this. This is an example I just made up. Yeah, so study number 1 is not significant. Yeah, randomized controlled trial number 2 is not significant either. Randomized controlled trial number 3 does not yield any significant results. Number 4 and number 5 do not show any significant results. Yeah, so you have 5 studies. Let's say they worked with a tool to improve recovery after heavy strength training. Yeah, okay, you have this 5 trials with 80 participants. It's not a very low number. Yeah, and you say, this recovery intervention does not show any effects. Yeah, we can forget it. Just put it in the trash bin. It's not worth considering. It will not have an effect. Yeah. So, but if you perform a meta-analysis, yeah, so you combine, or you not combine, you will, yeah, I guess combine is the right term. You will combine these 80 participants from the 5 studies, which make 400 participants. Yeah, so you have a participant pool which is dramatically increased. You find 400 participants, and then you will have a significant result. Yeah, so the 5 not significant results, if you combine them, you will find statistical significance. Yeah, and this changes a lot. Yeah, suddenly you can see an effect. If, or of course, another question remains. Yeah, does this recovery tool has a practical relevant? Does it show practical relevant effects? Yeah, this is not always easy to answer. You will have to have a careful look. Yeah, maybe you will have to assess, or you will have to assess or to analyze this recovery procedure in practically terms. Yeah, but I just want to demonstrate that things can change when you increase the number of participants and if you perform a systematic review, and a meta-analysis. Okay, so let's come to the steps of a meta-analysis. So basically we have 5 different steps. Yeah, narrowing down the research question, literature research, and selection. We'll have a closer look on this today. Then documentation of results, integration and analysis. We will do this next week. Yeah, and the interpretation and documentation of the results. Yeah, we will have a practical example showing the steps with the help of this meta-analysis. Yeah, so this is a meta-analysis I published almost 5 or 6 years ago, but nevertheless it's still cited quite a lot. Yeah, I will demonstrate the steps with the help of this review. Okay, of course we have other let's I don't know how you call this. Of course, we have slight differences. Yeah, so this is another picture showing the steps of a systematic review. Yeah, so this is formulate the problem. Yeah, which is the same like narrowing down the research question. Then develop and validate the review protocol, which is a very good idea. Search the literature, screen for inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then assess the quality. Yeah, this step is missing here. Yeah, assessing the quality is a very important aspect. I don't know if we will have time for this today, but there are different scales or different procedures to assess the quality of the included studies. I think it's very important to do this, yeah, to give the reader an idea how good the quality of included articles is, yeah, then extract data, analyze and synthesize data, and report the findings. Yeah, okay. So, significance of the research question. The research question must, well, okay. So we have 8:45, so we have 45 minutes in. Let's do 3 minutes of a break, yeah? I'll just grab something to drink. I will. Okay, we'll just continue, yeah? So, narrowing down the research question is very important. And so the significance of the research question must precisely be described, yeah, the characteristics and relationships of interest to later distinguish relevant from irrelevant findings, yeah, or from relevant, no, to distinguish between relevant and irrelevant studies and publications. Yeah, it's really very, very important that you narrow down the research question if you describe the area of research you want to analyze, yeah, because if you do not narrow it down quite enough, you will have an enormous amount of research, yeah. So you will need operational definitions of constructs, yeah. Speaking, let's talk about high intensity interval training. What exactly is high intensity interval training for you? Which intensity is it? Yeah. So you really have to define the intensities and the training parameters. Yeah. You really have to define the population. Yeah. Is it athletes? Yeah. No matter which level, no matter which age. Yeah. Or is it high level youth athletes from 4 to 17 years, yeah, or is it obese patients, yeah, and if they are obese, yeah, how do you define obese exactly, yeah? So which, for example, which BMI is it, or which waist to hip ratio, or uh, um, which body fat percentage, yeah? So be really precise. And you have to be precise because you have to manage the the, the studies. Yeah, if you do not define the the population, yeah, and your constructs, you will have too many studies to include. Yeah, and of course the study characteristics you have to define them. Yeah. Do you take only randomized controlled trials, yeah, or do you say you can include studies which do not have any control group, yeah? So, or do you only include studies which have a crossover design, yeah? So you should have really very precise inclusion and exclusion criteria. So the research question should provide criteria for deriving the selection between relevant and irrelevant studies, yeah? And this has a precise reason. Okay, now my slide is not continuing. Yeah, okay. So what exactly do I want to investigate? Yeah, what is my research question? Inclusion and exclusion criteria. Be very precise. Yeah, what outcome is it? Yeah, so you have to define the outcome. Is it VO2 max, or is it VO2 max and VO2 peak? Yeah, or is it just running performance in an aerobic field test? Yeah. Or is it VO2 peak, VO2 max, and running performance in an aerobic field test? Yeah. What is the study design? Do I accept cohort studies and randomized controlled trials and case controlled studies, or is it just only randomized controlled trials? Yeah. In which online database did you do the research? Yeah. Always list the databases. Is it Medline, Embase, SportDiscus, Cochrane database, yeah? Or is it all these databases? How do I assess the quality of primary studies? Yeah, quality assessment is a very important tool. Yeah, there are many different ways to assess the quality of primary studies. If you have a lot of primary studies, this can be really a lot of work. Yeah, so we'll talk about later about these tools. Can I perform meta-analysis? Yeah, so what statistical model? Do I have a sensitivity analysis? Yeah, or but just a second. I have here some problems, but yeah, okay. Can I do a sensitivity analysis? Yeah, or heterogeneity analysis? Yeah. Okay. So narrowing down the research question, I will give you one example, yeah, of my high intensity interval training, of my review, high intensity interval training performed by young athletes, a systematic review and meta-analysis, yeah. So the aims of the review was no review so far has analyzed the various adaptation of HIIT exclusively in young athletes, which is important since the adaptation to HIIT may be different in athletes compared to diseased or untrained children. Yeah. So in the purpose, yeah, you see it's about high intensity interval training and young athletes. Yeah. But of course, you will have to define it very precisely. What is HIIT, yeah, and what are young athletes? The purpose of this review to summarize and analyze the effects of HIIT intervention in contrast to other control interventions. Yeah, so you see here we don't have a primary outcome. Yeah, we have not mentioned here. We just want to analyze the impact of HIIT on VO2 max. Yeah, and we did not define the sample, yeah, and to provide evidence-based recommendation for the application of HIIT in young and adolescent athletes. Yeah, so from my today's perspective, it's not very precise and not defined sufficiently. Yeah. Okay. Inclusion and exclusion criteria, very important. Yeah. Studies were considered eligible according to the following criteria. If the studies prescribed HIIT, yeah, and then we have a very precise definition of HIIT, yeah. So 90% of maximum oxygen uptake, or 90 to 95% of peak heart rate, yeah, or supramaximal interval sprinting, yeah. So we just included studies who prescribed these intensities in training, yeah, and it's very important to do it this precise. Another inclusion criteria, we included studies involving children and adolescents of any sports, yeah, not older than 18 years, male and female, with performance-related fitness outcomes, yeah. So performance-related fitness outcomes, it's very general, yeah. Sport-specific performance is very general as well, and physiological performance parameters is a very general description as well. So if I would do it today again, I would just focus on VO2 max, yeah, and I would narrow it down more precisely. So the intervention duration, 4 weeks, or HIIT microcycle of 5 to 14 days is defined by Wahl and Meckel, yeah. So even the duration of the intervention we defined, yeah. Then inclusion of passive control or alternative training group, yeah, including low intensity exercise, sport-specific training, or other forms of exercise as a control group, yeah. So we just included controlled trials. Studies were exclusively limited to those involving young athletes, defined to one of the following criteria. So it had to be superior athletic talent, yeah, undergo specialized training, receive expert coaching, exposure to early competition. Yeah, so here we did a relatively good job. We defined the sample group quite good. Yeah, so young athletes, and what is a young athlete? So it has to be superior athletic talent, undergo specialized training, receive expert coaching, exposure to early competition. Yeah. So we excluded studies with patients, yeah, studies involving solely strength training were excluded, and so on. Yeah, so it is really important to define the inclusion and exclusion criteria very very narrow. Yeah. Okay, I demonstrated this to you in one example. So defining the wideness of a research question is very important. Example number one, if you had the research question, effectiveness in prevention, yeah, what do you think? How many studies will you find on this subject? Yeah. Example number two, if you are more precise, if you formulate your research question like this: influence of the relaxation technique, progressive muscle relaxation, on impulsivity in hyperactive children up to 13 years old. Yeah. What do you think? How many studies will you find on this subject? Yeah. Example number one will lead to more than 20,000, maybe 50,000 studies. Yeah. Example number two will yield you, I don't know, like 15, 20, 25, maybe 150 studies. Yeah. But I guess it's more like 15 to 20 studies. Yeah. But before you define your research question like this, or before you are able to define your research question like this, you have to do extensive research, yeah, before commencing the actual meta-analysis. Also, so how many studies can be found on that topic? Yeah, you really have to try. You really have to try it out. Yeah, to search. Yeah, you have to perform extensive research before you can write down your research question like this, and before you can formulate your inclusion and exclusion criteria. So you will have to do a lot of preliminary research. Yeah, you will have to look at previous meta-analysis. Yeah, you have to look at narrative reviews, and of course you have to search and read primary studies. Yeah, to get an overview how many studies could be available. Yeah, also, so this is a very important step to do preliminary research before you start your actual meta-analysis. So the wideness of the research question is naturally influences the number of studies found. Preliminary research, I just said it, yeah, you will have to, it's a big effort, yeah, but there must be a sufficient yet manageable number of studies available, yeah. So you cannot perform a systematic review and a meta-analysis with just 3 or 5 studies, yeah. It has to be a sufficient number, but of course, it's really difficult for me to say what is a sufficient number. Yeah, but if you are interested in a study in the field of public health, yeah, so there's always a very high number of studies. If you find 20,000 studies, yeah, it's too much. Yeah, it's not manageable. So it's not easy to find the correct balance. Okay, with narrowing down the research question, the PICO scheme helps you a lot. In the field of evidence-based medicine, we primarily focus on the formulation of inquiries according to the PICO criteria. Yeah, this stands for population or problem, intervention, yeah, C, comparison or control, and O for outcome. Yeah. Example number 2, influence of the relaxation technique, progressive muscle relaxation, on impulsivity and hyperactivity behavior in hyperactive children up to 13 years of age. Yeah. So what is the population or the problem? Yeah, the population, hyperactive children, yeah, up to 13 years old. What is the intervention? Really very easy, yeah, progressive muscle relaxation. Comparison or control, yeah, so we don't have precise information given in example number 2, yeah, so maybe I will have to improve the quality, yeah, and add a formulation here in example 2. Maybe it's useful to add sorry, I just okay. Maybe it will be important to add a sentence only controlled studies, yeah, or maybe I have the possibility, at least a theoretical possibility, to write to be more precise in the way of control. Yeah, maybe I will compare progressive muscle relaxation with I don't know, yoga or another procedure. Yeah, and the outcome, of course, very easy. Yeah, is impulsivity and hyperactivity behavior. Yeah, so here this research question is quite okay, quite round. Yeah, it could have one additional information. Yeah, what is the comparison or what is the control group? Yeah, or do I include just controlled studies? Okay. So literature search and selection. To make the process of literature search and selection comprehensible, it's advisable to thoroughly document it within the text. Yeah, very important. Additionally, graphical representation, such as a Prisma flow diagram, not can be utilized, should be utilized. Yeah, it's really better to have it. Here, this is a Prisma flow chart diagram. Yeah, it's not a perfect example. It's a little bit, the quality is not very good. Yeah, but this is very important. You always should document the flow of studies. Yeah, so how many studies did you identify in your first database search? Yeah, and how many studies did you identify from other sources? Yeah, maybe you have been aware of them before. Then the amount of studies you screened, and then really very important, you have to document how many studies you did exclude and because of what reason did you exclude the studies. Yeah, so for example, 5 studies we did include because they didn't have a control group. Yeah, and 26 studies we found them, but we had to exclude them because the participants were not athletes. Yeah, here these 16 studies we had to exclude because the participants were patients. Yeah, and so on and so on. And here they were older than 18 years old. You did a full text analysis for screening of the inclusion and exclusion criteria, and you exclude the studies based on these data, and finally you end up with 24 studies in your final analysis. Of course, you have software to help you with this process, yeah, and you don't have to do Excel files anymore and write down the reasons. Yeah, you have some really helpful software. We'll talk about this later. Yeah, like for example, Covidence. Yeah, Covidence helps you a lot during the screening process. Yeah, and there you can assess the quality, and the software will document the reasons for you. Yeah. Okay. Literature search and selection. Let's have a look at databases. Yeah. So we have a very high number of databases like PubMed, PsycInfo, PsyIndex, Easy Web of Science, and so on and so on. Cochrane database. Yeah. So it's very, very important to look in specific databases, yeah, who exclusively include articles published in peer-reviewed journals. Yeah, it is okay to do your primarily literature research with Google Scholar, yeah, or even just Google, but in your final analysis, yeah, only include databases which exclusively include published which include articles published in peer-reviewed journals. Yeah, we have an increasingly high number of predatory journals. Yeah, predatory journals, they are fake journals. Yeah, they seem to be scientific. Yeah, but they do not apply any scientific criteria. It's a very dangerous threat to our research community, yeah, and it's not easy to identify the predatory journals. If you just search in these journals like PubMed and so on, in these scientific databases, yeah, you can be 99% sure that you have just articles from peer-reviewed journals, yeah. So this is a very important thing on quality control, yeah. So limit your literature research on these databases who guarantee a high scientific standard, yeah. Of course, you have other databases, yeah, very big databases with no exclusive scientific approach, yeah. Just to do some primarily research, it is okay, but please be aware, don't include databases like Google or Google Scholar in your final analysis. So then you will have to use operators, yeah, which of course are very depending on the database. Yeah, you can seek assistance from your library, from specialists or from a supervisor if needed. Yeah, you can watch some YouTube tutorials. Yeah, some universities offer YouTube tutorials. I gave you one example. Yeah, the operators are the terms you search the databases with. Yeah. So, and as I mentioned, yeah, I was looking for high intensity interval training, yeah, but high intensity interval training has many synonyms, yeah, synonyms. So I search with high intensity training or intensive interval training, yeah, or functional high intensity training or high intensity circuit training, or aerobic interval training, or sprint interval training, yeah, or repeated sprint training, or intensive exercise training. And yeah, remember the group of participants, yeah, were young athletes or adolescent athletes or teen athletes or junior athletes or children athletes or children or adolescents, yeah. It's not so easy to formulate this, to formulate the operators, yeah, but it's important to search one database. Let's say PubMed, to search the database with this combination, yeah, because if I use these terms and these operators and it combines high intensity interval training with all the expressions after that word here, yeah, and it combines this with all the terms here. I didn't do the math on it, but it's a very, very, very high number of combinations, yeah, and the database will search it all in one approach, yeah. If you would do it manually, yeah, also if you would search high intensity interval training and young athletes, yeah, and high intensity training and young athletes, yeah, and intensive interval training and young athletes, and so forth. And then in another round, yeah, high intensity interval training and adolescent athletes, yeah, you would spend a lot of time, yeah. So please be clever, be smart, do it like that. But of course, it's not always easy to come up with these terms, yeah. Okay, then another few aspects on literature research. Yeah, publication bias is always a problem. What is publication bias? Yeah, so significant results are more often submitted than non-significant results. Yeah, it's a very old phenomenon. We know about this problem for a long, long time. So if you are a researcher and you yield significant results and you can accept your hypothesis, yeah, so everything came as expected, yeah, you submit it to a journal, and the likeliness that the editor, the journal, is accepting your research is very, very high, and then you publish it and everybody is happy, yeah. If you have negative results, yeah, if you and your research group were not able to prove your hypothesis, yeah, you have not yielded the significant results, yeah, you submit it to the journal, and the likeliness that the editor and the journal rejects your article is very high. Maybe you tried in another journal and then again in another journal, yeah, and after the third or fourth trial, you put it into the trash bin, yeah. But to be honest, many negative results. If you have the negative results, researchers do not bother to submit it. Yeah, it lands here in the trash bin immediately. Yeah, so reviewers and editors are more likely to accept articles with significant rather than non-significant results, and this is a shocking high number. 97% of all articles in psychological journals report significant results, yeah, which is really, this makes me really sad, yeah, and really angry. It's not acceptable. And in sports science, we don't have precise numbers, but it's very, very similar, yeah, and it's a huge problem, the publication bias. Here you can see a systematic review where you have no publication bias. Yeah, this is I'm really sorry, but I forgot the name of it's not a forest plot. It's a funnel plot. Funnel plot, exactly. You can see here the effect sizes, yeah, ranging from -2 to effect size 1, effect size 2 and 4. And each point represents one original research study, yeah, and you can see here that we have a certain amount of studies showing negative effect, yeah, some studies showing no effect, and some studies showing a positive effect, yeah. So here you have no publication bias. Another example, yeah, for a big publication bias is, you see it immediately on the first side, the absolute majority of studies showing positive effects, yeah, and this is a typical example for publication bias, yeah. So here you have a very small, very limited number of studies reporting a null effect or negative effect, yeah, and more studies showing a positive effect. Very good example of publication bias. But it's not hopeless to get your negative results published, yeah. I succeed several times to publish negative results. It's not always easy, yeah. It's a longer way, it's a bigger effort to publish your negative results. But you can search for journals who publish negative results, yeah. I just copied you one list of journals specializing on negative results, yeah. Here, yeah, positively negative +1, the missing pieces, a collection of negative, null, and inconclusive results, yeah, and so on and so on. So meanwhile, they are journals who publish negative results, yeah, from all kinds of different disciplines, yeah. You will have to search a little bit, but you will find the journals who publish negative results, yeah. And yeah, okay. So problems with the literature research, yeah. Sometimes you will come across articles and journals that are behind a paywall. Yeah, so you will have to pay for in order to read or download the articles. University of Würzburg has relatively good license, yeah, but nevertheless, some articles are behind the paywall, yeah. So yeah, it can be the case that you will not have a license and that you will not be able to read or download the article. What to do then? Yeah, of course, I will recommend you to go to ResearchGate. Yeah, make yourself an account and try to find the PDF here on ResearchGate. Yeah, it's always a good thing. Yeah, you find a very high number of articles there. Sometimes the article is not uploaded, then you can just contact the authors, write them an email, ask for the paper, yeah, say that you perform a systematic review and that you want to include their article. If you are lucky, they will send you the article, yeah. Then there is a website Sci-Hub, yeah. So there you can illegally download articles, yeah. Please be aware that's illegal. But this could be the last option, yeah. So several scientists around the world gave Alexandra Elbakyan their university login credential to be used by Sci-Hub, yeah. So there you can find access to almost all journals, but it's not legal, yeah, and I would not do it from your home computer, from your home IP address, yeah. You should do it from another network, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so the literature management, yeah. How does you can keep track with the relevant articles? Of course, you should use some literature system. I always work with Citavi. Yeah, you can work with EndNote as well. So this helps the administration of the literature very much. Yeah, so some systems are for free, other are fee-based. But for example, Citavi and EndNote, you can get a license from the university. Yeah, you will find the software here, Rechenzentrum. Yeah, you will have the different systems here. I wrote down the email address here. Students can get software licenses here for free, yeah, and it helps you a lot to perform your systematic review. So the synthesis of results, we will have a careful look on that next week. Yeah, we'll just have an easy start. So let's start with the effect sizes. Yeah, summary of effect sizes and conversion into a unified measure. For example, group differences measures, yeah, like Cohen's D or Hedges G, or association measures, yeah, like alpha measure. So it's basically the difference between two mean values, yeah, or correlation coefficient R, yeah. Correlation always very important in public health studies, or the risk measures, yeah, like odds ratio or relative risk. But we will dive into that deeper in the next week. So let's start with a really easy one, yeah, the group differences measures like Cohen's D. Cohen's D is a measure of effect sizes calculated when dealing with different differences in means, yeah. For example, VO2 max, these are the thresholds, yeah. If you have an effect size smaller than 0.5, it's a small effect. If it's between 0.5 and 0.8, you have a moderate effect. And if it's bigger than 0.8, you have a large effect. Yeah. The Hedges G calculation is really very, very simple. Yeah, it's very simple math. You take the mean values, let's say, from the VO2 max, from the interventional group, yeah, minus the mean values from the control group, divided by the standard deviation of the interventional group and the control group. Yeah, so you just addieren, yeah, you just add the mean standard deviation of the interventional group and the control group, and you divide this mean standard deviation through the mean value of the interventional group and the control group, yeah, and here you have the cutoff values. A really very simple procedure. Then you can find association measures, yeah. Association measures are used to indicate the strength of a relationship between two variables, but they do not offer insights beyond the two variables, yeah, and you don't get any direction of correlation out of this, yeah. You do not know which influences with what. So the correlation coefficient ranges between -1 and +1, yeah. Minus is a perfect negative correlation, 0 is no correlation, and +1 is a perfect positive correlation. Yeah. Okay, do you have any questions so far? Okay, any aspect, anything not clear? Okay, then I will have a homework for you. Yeah, you are supposed to do a little bit homework. Please read the message section, yeah, of the following review very carefully. So we will have a look on this review: effectiveness of high intensity interval training and continuous endurance training for VO2 max improvement. Yeah, improvements. It's uploaded in Vue Study, and you should answer the following question, yeah? What population is examined in the review? What intervention is examined in the review, yeah? And how was intervention defined? What is a comparison or control intervention? And what is the outcome variable, yeah? It's a very, I have to admit, it's a very easy homework, yeah? It's more or less a PICO scheme, yeah? And just read the methods section and answer these questions. It's a more or less a kindergarten homework. Yeah, you sure will be able to succeed. And then please read the whole methods section of this review. Yeah, read it not only one time. Yeah, please read it 2, 3, or 4 times. And in the next week, we will talk about this method section a little bit more in depth. Yeah, so we will have a look at different statistical procedures which we can perform in systematic reviews. Yeah, so please have a careful look at the method section. Okay, then thank you for your attention. Yeah, if you have any questions, I would love to answer this. And of course, some of you will have the pleasure to perform their own review. Yeah, sooner or later, maybe in your master thesis. Yeah, maybe earlier. It is a big effort. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's really worth it. Yeah, it's really a good. It's a valuable thing to do, and if you do a good systematic review, it will be cited. The citation will be high, yeah, and the contribution for the scientific community is quite high, yeah. So fingers crossed for your own review. Okay, so I'll stop the